people that can do the distribution in the given area. These are the discos now. So can we bring in investors and partition Enugu say into 8 distinct areas, or even 10? It's enough to be one. Co-camp and one is enough to be one.
It's more than enough to be one.
So yes. So now what I'm trying to say is this: if you bring out the business model, water is life. It is something everybody must use. The government will now come in as the GENCO and as regulator to make sure that people are not overbilled, one, and to also enforce any form of breach. In this time and age, there are technologies that can detect any form of bypass on these water lines. So you don't even talk about people tapping the water not paying. So many Enugu people are ready to pay for this water once they have it. So can we look at this model and just imagine getting a company to come and take over the distribution of Ababa, and they do the pipe laying, and you can then give them tax holiday and other incentives to be able to meet up with the cost of this pipe laying. I can tell you that within 1 year, all Enugu metropolis will have water running in various forms. Because what you will have now, you are bringing in investors that want to, one, deliver, because if they don't deliver, Enugu government will be on their neck, and two, they want to also recoup their own investments. So if you do this way, with what Mba has done, Nightmare, and we want to replicate the Oji River thing, the Ajali area can even be supplementary, because Ajali, the cost of moving the water uphill is even another thing. But we can also focus Ajali on the Eziagu axis and allow the Oji River and Nightmare crash program to serve there. Then lastly, a decisive action must be taken on tanker drivers. When Enugu people heap blames on government and the rest of them, if you don't know the atrocities some of these men commit, the sabotage they do to water facilities in Enugu, you will not, for one day, take them for what they do. That is why they can do guys, because they know they are frustrating the system. So the government, if they go into this GENCO and DISCO partnership, within 6 months they should ban tanker drivers in the state during rainy season. If you do this, ban the activities. So if you're going to vandalize or to sabotage,
ban somebody from his livelihood.
If
you ban the union or ban people who
I am coming. If you weigh the services they render and what Enugu people are suffering, take for instance, under the last administration, somewhere at Milliken Hill, these guys, some of them, I don't know who did it, opened the pipe, poured concrete, and sealed the pipe. A very big supply pipe. So you as a government, how do you begin to imagine where this blockage is coming from? So you will pump and supply, it will get to Enugu. So how can you describe that? Okay. So what I'm saying is this: the water system the water situation in Enugu is a near-death situation, and when you are in such situation, the Thomas knows there's no room for some pretense. You have to go for the killer. And this killer this time around, no matter how you want to see it, how you want to paint it, their tractors, their tankers can be converted. It's not a waste. It can be converted to carry other loads. Let our farms work. They go there, move our products, and come back. So their vehicles, they are not being run out of town. But we want to have water in Enugu.
Desperate situations.
Yes.
For desperate
actions. So it's not cherry pick or what you want to do. The water thing, as I am pained by it, many people are paying. So if the government can do this, and in the next 6, 7, 8 months, I can bet you will have water everywhere.
Thank you, gentlemen. Time is now our friend. Prof. Professor.
Are we sure the tanker drivers are responsible?
Professor, what can be done differently?
For the
number one,
can you profess what this government can do differently?
Number one, the state prides itself as disruptive, innovative, audacious. Ambitious.
Like the one putting audacious.
If you look at this, ambitious. So what I think we should do, if it's a government that prides us being innovative, monitoring of projects should be easier. Even the issue is raised now. You can use technology to monitor what is happening at various places and at what time. The government should invest, whether it's water, whether it's road, whether it's anything, for monitoring purposes. That needs to happen. Secondly, when I started my opening speech, I said that what I would have loved to hear from the governor is to tell us exactly what the needle that has moved. Not about number of smart schools that have been constructed and all that. What has changed? How many pupils do we have now that these new schools have accommodated? What has happened with the literacy rates? What has happened with the technology and all those kinds of things? That's what I want to. So I will advise the government to develop a resource framework, more like a monetary and evaluation framework that clearly stipulates the resource framework that shows from each month, it could be monthly or quarterly, where we want to be.
Monthly.
And we'll begin to monitor what has happened.
The progress.
The progress. In terms of road, you discover that just most of the roads that were started last year got abandoned along the way. And the works that have been completed are already spoiling within 2 years. So it's important also that we need to be more transparent in our procurement process, where the citizens get to know who is getting what, at what rate, and what that person is expected to do. If you have a procurement dashboard that says Chief Anyoke was awarded Project A to do so, 10-kilometer road, 5-meter depth, with so. It's easier for citizens to begin to monitor these things with the government and provide feedback. That needs to happen. Transparency. If there's transparency, the Soji Moto procurement issue wouldn't have happened, because we would have known all the things that we need to do in terms of due process. So that needs to happen. Transparency and accountability to happen. Then lastly, for me, based on someone who works with data, like Obasi, even though his own is different.
All of us work with data.
I said it here at the last meeting before Christmas when we looked at the budget. Most times the figures that the governor gives appears to be different from the official figures published by the state government. And it looks as though we give an impression of getting so much money, whereas the records are saying differently. Because when you raise such figures, the expectations also increases. So it's important that the government reconciles its record. Tell us the truth about the situation of affairs in Enugu State at each particular point in time, because that will also enable us to know when they overload these things. Because if you say you build 265 schools, the big question is that where are you getting the money from? And if we have spent so amounts, can we now tag the projects to say the IGR was used to do A, B, C, D? At what cost? What? And it's not just about spending, which is why personally I don't believe in what we call budget performance in Nigeria. It is spending. And even the spending is not spending, because we don't spend most of the funds on the same projects. Larger portion of it goes into people's pockets. So when we check about the performance of the money you said you spent on social projects based on the amount you've realized, and know whether it is aligning with the objectives of those projects. The people need to know. Thank you.
Dr. Anyanuka.
Yeah, I will stick to my constituency, which is, of course, the education sector. I'm just going to, as far as I'm concerned, what this government has done is impressive. I must state that very clearly. But like I've always said, even during our programs, but I think government is actually taking on too much. But it is in line with the disruptive innovation that he promised during his campaign period. But then, given the reality, we need these schools to take off. I'm focusing only on the smart schools, but that does not mean that we have tertiary education. We have other levels of education too, postgraduate education and all that. And I don't know the level of investment that government is actually, what the budget is, in details of it. For instance, what is it going to spend on?
A suit?
Yes, the universities and the polytechnics, that belong to the state. That is also very important. I want to emphasize that training, for instance, first of all, recruitment. Even though Dr. Maxwell Ngere has said that he's aware that teachers have been recruited. I'd like to see, yes, we need details.
Data.
Well, maybe we don't expect, for instance, unlike Professor Oba, who always wants, for instance, during New Year message for all those, That's not what I'm looking at. Because this New Year message is actually addressed to the entire Enugu. I think there should be a platform for addressing some of the specific details that he has raised. But that's not for the general public. That should be for specialized people like him and us. Not for general public broadcast. So in terms of, if there's a, yeah, that's my own opinion. You may have yours. I'm a communicator. I'm a communication expert, so I understand that you cannot have one common message for different targets. Yes, that is if you're going to address the entire target.
You're not laughing, it's like you agree with him.
No, hold on. He doesn't agree with me.
He does.
Well, hold on. What I'm saying is that there are specific targets. That's the truth. In communication, you must sift out your target. Should we go into a lecture on that?
No,
That's not what we're in.
We can do that after the program.
So what I want, what I will advise, because that's
do
actually what we have.
differently. Yes.
As far as those schools are concerned, please, it is very important that there would be, an evaluation of the state of those schools as it were right now. The monitoring team should not just be comprised of just government officials. It's important that we bring in people who are unbiased, people who work independently, who also have experience in things of this nature. There should be a physical, there's a word for it, assessment of those individual schools. Let's find out at what stage, which ones are already operational. What do they require? Are the teachers, the smart teachers, what are the challenges? What about the solar installations, even the IT installation? These are things that I believe it is done. I believe that by the end of this year, yes, those smart schools will be operational.
Dr. Basi.
Yes, what can we do better in health sector? Let me call health sector because that's an area I'm so much enthusiastic. It's a fragile area. Many of our it's a very fragile area because you could see a hospital functional today and tomorrow Jabba syndrome has settled and the hospital becomes dysfunctional. So I think our governor gave out some timeline. He said that smart schools will kick start I think this January. Yes. So that's the very first timeline. So I would still say that for the other theatre hospital, the diagnostic center, Parkland, upgraded facilities, there should be a timeline, where you could say that at the end of so and so quarter, this is what we should. So you get a feedback mechanism from it. So what services are they rendering? Our equipment have been, how many percentage equipment have you given, first quarter, second quarter? Can you put track records of this? I think that's the first thing. And then we look at our indicators. Currently, what are we doing? Even if you are treating 1 million persons, we begin to look at, for example, in children, maternal and child healthcare services. You look at what is the ratio of maternity we have today. How many children can we say under 5 infants that are, have taken all their vaccines? Do we still have mixed doses of vaccination? How many of these kids have gotten, 100%, of their vaccines, effortlessly, not periodically going to sensitize them, but having to render these services? Can we get to 0 dose mixing of vaccination within the second quarter of this? And then we begin to look at, you talked about skip feeding program. That's a very veritable mechanism of reducing stunting, child wastage and people not growing well. We'll look at what do we have today. How many children are malnourished? And then how many of these kids are we going to see after 6 months of feeding them? Can we get them out of malnourishment? Then you begin to collaborate to be sure that we are doing something that's achievable, not just putting in money and not seeing measurable indicators. Then we look at human service retention. Like I said earlier, can the local government area partner with the government to build facilities and then have mobilities within the local government, and so as to retain these healthcare workers? Sometimes you see a health worker, a medical doctor who tells you he's going to Ikem and he's moving every day from Enugu to Ikem. It's almost an impossible thing to sustain. It's not sustainable over a period of time. So how can we begin to retain these healthcare workers? What is the doctor, nurses, doctor workers, patient doctor, all those ratios? How can you begin to look at those ratios? What are the staff, staff strength we have? Can we begin to think of how to retain them and then drastically reduce these, out of care expenditure? Then you begin to look at.
Let them be the final.
Then we look at the idea of the patients we are looking at. How many of them have healthcare insurance cover? Because that's the only way you can say that these people can come to the facilities. How many of these healthcare people we say they walk into the fair facilities without expending money out of pocket, what we call out of pocket expenditure? Because that puts a very big hole. So I believe that when these indicators are pumped up and then timeline given to them, that will help His Excellency to see what I am doing is really achievable. But when you don't do things, when you do things without putting a benchmark or how to monitor them, how to tell yourself or do appraisal, it becomes free for all. And then you might see that your aim might not even be achieved in the next 3 years.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you very much. I want government to be more open in terms of honest communication, because
This is honest for strategic communication.
both strategic and honest communication. You see, in Enugu,
It's a phrase he loves so much. I read him, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. He used that term, that phrase, honest communication.
for instance, in Enugu they talk a lot about taxation. That this government overtaxes citizens, this and that. We need to have an online dashboard, for instance, where government should be able to publish certain things. We need to know the rate for vehicle licenses, land use, blah blah blah. There's need for more openness, in those
I tell people that
So it has everything must have timeline between January and March, because this election is next year. I know very sure.
Election is starting this year.
Yeah.
Campaigns starts this year, and so on. So the government should also understand that people will know they should not just say things that will appear as if it's rhetoric. They should do things that are measurable and think of how to improve livelihoods in real time. We need to have maybe a kind of reporting, portal reporting, this, what has been done, this and that. It's not just for people to say we've done this, we've done that. We need statistics, data, raw data.
Okay, thank you guys. It's been a wonderful time. I don't better begin. So we have barely 14 minutes to go. Yeah.
Let's bring our audience.
I can already by 14 minutes.
Listeners.